video is from L4 English Medium School.
Hello student, we have started with standard 7 science 4th lesson heat. In part 1 we have discussed about how coldness and hotness determine different methods to measure the temperature of the material, clinical thermometer, laboratory thermometers and grade of thermometer, how to measure the reading over the thermometer. In the next part, this part 2 will study about the transfer of heat. You might have observed that a frying pan becomes hot when we kept on a flame. जब हम फ्लेम के ऊपर या फिर बत्ती के ऊपर जब हम फ्राइंग पैन पकड़ते तो वो गर्म हो जाता है, राइट. इट इज़ बिकॉज द हीट पासिस फ्रॉम द फ्लेम टू द यूटेंसिल. ये ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है? बिकॉज हीट विच इज़ देयर इन द फ्लेम इट पासिस टू द utensil and utensil becomes hot. When the pan is removed from this fire, it slowly cools down. Why does it cool down? फायर से निकलने के बाद वो ठंडा क्यों हो जाता है? द हीट इज ट्रांसफर फ्रॉम pan to the surrounding area, the atmosphere. What is the temperature? Accordingly the temperature of the pan will change. So you can understand that in both the cases the heat flows from a hotter object to a colder object. So always heat कैसे मूव होती है? हॉट गर्म ऑब्जेक्ट से ठंडे ऑब्जेक्ट तक गर्म होती है. So in all cases heat flows from a hotter object to the colder object. Paheli asks, does it mean that heat will not be transferred if the temperature of the two objects is the same? अगर दोनों भी ऑब्जेक्ट के टेम्परेचर सेम हुए तो हीट ट्रांसफ़र नहीं होगी क्या? हाउ डज द हीट फ्लो? लेट अस इन्वेस्टिगेट. अब हम फाइंड आउट करेंगे हीट कैसे फ्लो होती है, कैसे हॉट ऑब्जेक्ट से कोल्ड ऑब्जेक्ट तक मूव होती है. एक्टिविटी इज गिवन 4.6. टेक अ रॉड और अ फ्लैट स्ट्रिप ऑफ अ मेटल, से ऑफ एल्यूमिनियम और आयरन या फिर एल्यूमिनियम का एक फ्लैट स्ट्रिप लेंगे या फिर रॉड ले सकते हैं. फिक्स अ फ्यू स्मॉल वैक्स पीसेस ऑन द रॉड पर हमें एक पर्टिकुलर डिस्टेंस पर वैक्स के डॉट्स देने हैं. दिस पीसेस शुड बी एट नियरली इक्वल डिस्टेंस. सेम डिस्टेंस पे वो डॉट्स होने चाहिए. क्लैम्प द रॉड एट टू द स्टैंड को हमें वो रॉड लगा देना है. देन इफ़ you do not have a stand, you can put two ends of the rod in between the bricks. दो bricks के बीच में हम वो rod को लगा सकते हैं. Now hit the other end of the rod and observe. जो दूसरा एंड है उसको हमें हीट देनी है, फ्लेम देनी है थ्रू द कैंडल यू कैन गिव. What happened to the wax pieces? wax pieces का क्या होगा? Do these pieces begin to fall? वो जो pieces है वो नीचे गिर जाएंगी क्या? Which piece falls the first? कौन सा piece पहले गिर जाएगा? Do you think that the heat is transferred from the end nearest to the flame to the other end? फ्लेम के नियर जो पार्ट है वहाँ से हीट ट्रांसफ़र होके अदर पार्ट तक जाएगी. So the first wax drop from the next to the flame. दैट फ्लेम के बाजू में जो सबसे पहला वैक्स पॉइंट है वो ड्रॉप हो जाएगा, गिर जाएगा. द प्रोसेस बाय विच हीट इज ट्रांसफर फ्रॉम द हॉटर एंड टू द कोल्डर एंड of an object, this is known as conduction. So conduction is heat transfer from the hotter end to the colder end. So in solid generally the heat transfer through the conduction, this process through which the heat is transferred generally in the solid material. जो कुछ भी solid होता है इसमें ये हो जाता है. Heat is transferred by the process of conduction. Do all substances conduct heat easily? You must have observed that the metallic pan for cooking has a plastic or the wooden handle. When the pan get heated up, the wooden handle or plastic handle do not get heated up. Can you lift a hot pan by holding it from the handle without getting hot? Yes, the handle doesn't get the heat because they are the poor conductor because they do not follow the conductivity. Now heat the water in a small pan or a beaker. Collect some articles such as steel spoon, plastic scale, pencil और divider. जो मेटल के है, कुछ प्लास्टिक के है मटेरियल हमें बीकर में रखने चाहिए. इसमें हमने क्या लिया है? वाटर लिया है एंड उसे गर्म करना है. डिप वन एंड ऑफ ईच to the article in the hot water and wait for फ्यू मिनट। हमें क्या करना है, ये वो जो मटेरियल के एक एंड जो है वो पानी में डालना है, गर्म पानी में डालना है और रुकना है। टच द अदर एंड, दूसरे एंड को टच करना है एंड एंटर योर ऑब्जर्वेशन टेबल 4.2. Which object we feel hotter and which do not, that we have to note it in the table 4.3. The one example is given of steel spoon. It is made up of metal and yes, it does transfer the heat. The material which allows heat to passes through them easily, they are conductors of it. हम उसे क्या कहते हैं, heat conductor. For example, aluminum, iron, copper, means all the metals, they are the conductors of heat because they allow the heat to pass from them or from through easily, and which do not allow, they are the poor conductors of heat, such as plastics and wood, they are poor conductor. We also call them as insulator. The water and air are the poor conductors of heat. Then how does the heat transfer takes place in these substances? हम बोलते हैं ना water गर्म हो जाता है, so how does get heated up? Air is also poor conductor. So is there any other way of conduction of heat? जैसे कि हमने हीट कंडक्शन देखा, वैसे भी और कुछ है क्या? Let us find out. For that, activity is given 4.8. Take a round bottom flask. If a flask is not available, beaker can also be done. Fill it 2/3 with the water. उसमें पानी भरना है हमें. Place it on the tripod stand and make the arrangement in the flask in such a way that you can heat it by placing a candle below it. So उसे थोड़ा ऊपर रखना है, नीचे कैंडल रखनी है. Wait till the water in the flask is still. Then place a crystal of potassium permanganate at the bottom of the flask gently using a straw. उसे हमें क्या करना है, पानी स्टिल होने के बाद उसमें हमें पोटेशियम परमैग्नेट, जिसका कलर कैसा होता है, पर्पल कलर होता है. नाउ हीट द वाटर बाय प्लेसिंग द कैंडल जस्ट बिलो द क्रिस्टल. हमें क्या करना है, वाटर को गर्म करना है. कहाँ से करना है, कैंडल कहाँ पे रखनी है, बर्निंग कैंडल जस्ट बिलो द क्रिस्टल, जहाँ पे क्रिस्टल है. राइट योर ऑब्जर्वेशन इन योर नोटबुक एंड ऑल्सो ड्रॉ द पिक्चर विथ यू ऑब्जर्व. व्हेन द वाटर इज हीटेड, द वाटर नियर द फ्लेम गेट हॉट. The hot water rises up and the cold water from the side moves down towards the source of heat. So hot water जो गर्म पानी है ऊपर आ जाएगा and cold water जो ऊपर है वो साइड से नीचे की तरफ भागेगा. This water also get hot and rises up. This is how the hot water the cold water becomes the hot, just moving inside the bottom. The water from the sides moves down. This process continues till the whole water gets heated up. This is how the पूरा का पूरा पानी जो है गर्म हो जाएगा. This mode of heat transfer is known as convection. Now, how does the heat travel in air? In which direction does the smoke goes? अभी तक हमने देखा solids में through conduction heat is transferred. In convection, it happens in the liquid. Now, what about in the gaseous form or the air heat is transferred? The way it happens in the convection, the air near the heat source, it becomes hotter and it rises up, and then air from the sides come in the takes its place. So in this way the air is get heated. The following the idea, it is confirming this. Activity 4.9. Light a candle, keep one hand above the flame and one hand on the side of the flame. Do your hand feels equal hot? If not, which hand feels the hotter and why? Be careful with your hand. Keep a safe distance from the flame so that do not get burned. हाथ ऊपर रखना है फ्लेम के ऊपर, एक साइड में रखना है. कौन से हाथ को आपको ज़्यादा हीट लगती है, साइड वाले या ऊपर वाले? यू कैन सी हियर इन दिस पिक्चर द अरेंजमेंट इज गिवन. Notice that towards the top the air gets heated by convection. Therefore, the hand above the flame feels hot. On the sides, however, there is no convection and air does not feel as hot as at the top. The people living in the coastal areas experiences an interesting phenomenon. During the day, coastal area is near the seashore or the rivers. What happens during the daytime? The lands get heated faster than the water. Land जो होती है जल्दी गर्म जो हो जाती है पानी से. So air above the land it becomes hotter and rises up. जो लैंड के ऊपर ज़मीन के ऊपर की हवा है वो गर्म हो जाती है क्योंकि लैंड गर्म हो गई and that air moves up and it moves towards the up, and the cooler air from the sea it rushes towards the land to take its place. So sea के ऊपर की जो हवा है वो ठंडी है, colder है compared to the air above the land which move towards the land. Warmer air from the land moves towards the sea to complete the cycle. So from the sea is called sea breeze. So here the colder air moves from seas, we call it as sea breeze. Well, here it receives the cooler sea breeze. The winds of the houses in a coastal area are made to face the sea. At night, it is exactly the reverse. The water cools down more easily or slowly over the land. So, the cool air from the land moves towards the sea. This is called land breeze. So, in morning time, they experience sea breeze, and the evening time or the night time they experiences land breeze. When we come out in the sun, we feel warmer because the sun rays or the heat of sun it passes through the air and reaches us. How does the heat from the sun reaches us? It cannot reach us by conduction or the convection, as there is no medium such as air in most part of the space between the earth and the sun. So there is no conduction or convection, because for the conduction and convection to occur there should be a medium. But here in the space there is no medium, there is a vacuum. See here the sea breeze is there from during daytime over the sea the air moves towards the land. So this is the sea breeze, and during the time land breezes occur where the cooler air from the land moves towards the sea. So this is a land breeze. From the sun, the heat comes to us by the another process we known as radiation. So we have seen conduction, convection where the medium is needed, but the radiation no need of any medium. The transfer of heat by the radiation does not require any medium. It can take place where a medium is present or not. मीडियम प्रेजेंट है या नहीं है उसकी उसे कुछ ज़रूरत होती नहीं. When we sit in front of a room heater, we get heat by this process. As well as a hot utensil kept away from the flame, it cools down as it transfers the heat to the surrounding by radiation. So our body too gives heat to the surrounding and receives heat from it by radiation. So all hot bodies radiate heat. When this heat falls on some object, a part of it is reflected, a part is absorbed, and a part may be transmitted. So radiation में जो हीट उसे मिलती है वो एब्जॉर्ब की जाती है, कुछ हीट ट्रांसफ़र की जाती है. The temperature of the object is increased due to the absorbed part of the heat, and this is how the object temperature is increases. And why are you advised to use the umbrella when you go out in the sun? Because of the radiations, the harmful radiations also fall on us. Now I will show you a video clip about the conduction, convection and radiation, and all about land breeze and sea breeze.
Introduction. While cooking food, if you leave the metal stirrer in the cooking utensil, you feel it hot when you touch it after some time. Why does this happen? You were not heating the stirrer, but still it became hot. How? Let us find out in this lesson. Objectives. At the end of this lesson, you'll be able to explain effects of heat, identify modes of heat transmission, conduction, convection, and radiation. Explain good and bad conductors of heat. When an object is heated, it undergoes many changes. The object becomes hotter. The object may expand or contract in size. A substance may change its state when heated. For example, water changes into water vapor on heating. We observe a change in temperature on heating. On heating, temperature rises, and on cooling, the temperature comes down. In nature, the sun energy brings about a change in temperature. The days are warm, while the nights are cool. Summer is hot, winter is cold. Matter exists as solid, liquid, and gas. all the three states of matter expand on heating. The expansion of matter depends on the temperature through which it is heated. In this case, when we heat this plate, the higher the temperature, more is the expansion. Expansion of matter also depends on the size of the material being heated. The longer the plate or bigger the bowl, more is the expansion for the same rise in temperature. The nature of the material being heated also plays an important role in expansion. For example, copper expands more than iron for the same rise in temperature. Liquids and gases are fluids. They expand on heating. Expansion in gas is very large as compared to solids or liquids. Let us look at some practical uses of thermal expansion of solids in daily life. The iron rim is fitted in bullock cart wooden wheels by heating. When the metal cools, it holds the segments of the wooden wheel firmly. A small gap is left between the rails of a railway track, where the two rails are joined with the help of a fish plate. The gap is left to allow space for the expansion of rails in summer. Let us now look how heat affects the change in state. On heating, a solid changes to liquid and a liquid changes to gas. Conversely, on cooling, gas loses heat to change into a liquid and a liquid loses heat to change into a solid. The temperature at which a solid melts to change into its liquid form is known as its melting point. Melting point of ice is 0 degrees Celsius. The temperature at which a liquid starts boiling and changing into its gas state is known as its boiling point. Boiling point of water is 100 degrees Celsius. Perhaps you have observed that when a stove is lighted in the kitchen, the air inside the room becomes little warmer. If this air is allowed to come out through an open window, it gradually cools down. The metal stirrer left in the cooking bowl becomes hot. These examples indicate that the bodies at higher temperature lose heat and consequently their temperature falls. When bodies gain heat, their temperature rises. There is a mutual exchange of heat between bodies at different temperatures. Flow of heat takes place in a particular direction, that is, from bodies at higher temperature to bodies at a lower temperature as water flows from a higher to a lower level. There are three modes of transfer of heat from one place to the other place. These are conduction, convection, and radiation. Let us perform an experiment. Take a metal rod, hold one end and heat the other end. In the beginning, the end of the rod in the hand is not hot. However, very soon we find that the end becomes hot and we are not able to hold the rod any longer. It means that some heat has been transferred. The process by means of which heat is transferred in a solid body from one part to the other is known as conduction. Conduction happens mainly in solid. Note that conduction is not possible in vacuum. Remember that there are two important conditions for heat to be conducted from one body to another. These are: the two objects should be in contact and their temperatures should be different. The process by which heat is transmitted through a substance from one point to another due to the actual bodily movement of the heated particles of the substance is called convection. Convection of heat takes place in fluids, that is, liquids and gases, and involves the movement of matter from hot regions to cooler regions. In convection, heat is carried by moving gases like air and by moving liquids like water. A movement of air which carries heat from a warmer place to a cooler place is called convection current. There is a third way by which heat can be transferred from a hot body to a cooler one. This mode of transfer is called radiation, and it does not need any medium between the two bodies. All hot bodies radiate heat. The hot objects radiate heat rays to the surroundings. Heat from the sun comes to us by radiation. It travels through millions of kilometers of space to reach the earth. When this heat falls on some object, a part of it is reflected, a part is absorbed, and a part may be transmitted. The temperature of the object increases due to the absorbed part of the heat. A cloudy night is hotter than a clear night. When the sky is clear, the heat radiation goes into the atmosphere, but due to the presence of clouds in the sky, these thermal radiations are reflected back to the earth and one feels warmer. Breeze is caused due to difference in heating. Let us see the cause for land breeze and sea breeze. During the day, land gets heated more than the sea water. Hot air above the land rises up, and therefore the cold air from the seaside moves towards the beach. This is sea breeze. At night it is exactly the reverse. The water cools down more slowly than the land, so the cool air from the land moves towards the sea. This is called the land breeze. Summary. Let us summarize what we have learned. There are three ways in which heat can flow from one body to another. These are conduction, convection, and radiation. In solids, generally the heat is transferred by conduction. In liquids and gases, the heat is transferred by convection. No medium is required for transfer of heat by radiation.